We're going to talk about ASO for 2019, some things that GummyCube has learned over the last year, and then general advice that we can hope to help your App Store optimization activities. So first, a little bit about me. I've got about 20 years behind me in mobile. I was doing mobile apps back in the days of Brew and Java devices and carrier distribution. So memory is very, very long. And to put that in contrast, the iPhone kind of and Android platforms have really only been around for 10 to 12 years. So mobile and what you can learn from mobile actually can go back a very long time. And our company, GummyCube, which is focused on App Store optimization, is actually the oldest ASO company in North America. We've been doing this for about a decade, both on the technology side as well as the agency service side. We work with a lot of great people, from folks like NBC Universal and StubHub to startups all around the world. Now, you can't really start an ASO talk without looking at where ASO began. And that was, a lot of people that were trying to rank better on keywords. There are a lot of challenges, though, because at the end of the day, the App Store and Google Play algorithms don't work like web search. It's not about targeting one keyword at a time tactically. In fact, the App Store and Google Play are more like e-commerce engines. When we think about App Store optimization, both building the technology and working with our partners, we think of this like, how would Amazon merchandise this app? What are the related audiences? What are the related keywords? How do features align with the way people search? And how will Apple and Google's algorithms react to what we put forward in the store? Our technology helps us do that a lot. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions about ASO is that this is a lot like web search. It's actually not like web search. When you think about the merchandising process, we think about it in two ways. The first way that you get merchandise through the store is algorithmic. You have search, both from an organic standpoint and a paid standpoint. We think of organic a lot like making sure that you're listed in the right aisle of the store. That's going to contribute to greater relevancy and positive signals for Apple and Google. We think of paid search like you're buying an end cap. And when you buy an end cap, you're going to move more units. That probably sends some positive signals to Apple and Google as well. But what's common between these two things is that click-through rate drives everything. And I think there's one giant misconception when you think about conversion optimization for mobile, and that is that page listing conversion or store listing conversion is the top of the funnel. It's not. The top of the funnel in these stores is where users first see your app. That's either in the search result or where people might be browsing the store. And in the world of Apple, you can just download straight from that point of presence. You don't actually have to go to the App Store page or the store listing in order to download. The other thing that we've noticed is that cross-promotion is huge. These little you also might likes that pop up in the App Store, which, by the way, are actually driven by your click-through rate and relevancy to other apps and their related keywords. They can drive about 60% of your browse or explore-related downloads if you're successfully optimizing your ASO. Even these algorithms are driven by what you do between search and conversion. About 70% of all downloads that originate in the store start from these algorithmic flows. They're extremely important to understand and know how to manipulate. The other flow is feature merchandising, where Apple or Google say, hey, we're going to feature you in the store, or where you might be found in a chart or a list. What we've seen is that featured placements work really great for new apps, but as your brand grows, the effectiveness of those features declines over time. In fact, 70% of organic impressions might be driven when you're actually getting an app feature, but they drive less than 5% of organic downloads as you evolve and as you grow in the store. Charts are determined, by the way, as everyone knows, by download volume and velocity, which is very different than search. That's all driven by relevance and click-through rate. And Google's doing a lot to increase screening so that burst campaigns don't work on their platform as effectively anymore because users don't generally engage when you're buying incentivized installs. Now, features have diminishing returns, as I mentioned. Only about 30% of all store downloads originate from either feature-based or browse activity, and we've seen that CVR can decline to less than 1% for really big apps, like if you're talking like a Microsoft Office or a very well-established brand. The other thing that's important to know is that, or think about, is that the search listing looks very different across the App Store and Google Play. That experience, which is your top of the funnel, is going to convert differently on each store based on how you present your creative and metadata. What works on Apple might not work on Google, or vice versa. When you think of the product page, the same is very true. I think Google gives you a lot of very easy tools to run A/B testing, and a lot of people assume what works there is easily translatable to Apple, but not always. And one of the reasons that's true is because in the Apple world, 80% of downloads from organic are originated from the get buttons throughout the store and not on your page. And that's why when you look at conversion metrics in the App Store, Apple gives you this metric called impressions. And impressions are very important because users who download straight from search or from a feature are not considered page views in their ecosystem. And so it's not an apples to apples measurement with what goes on in the Google Play Store. The other thing that's very important is to just completely ignore self-serving advice from tools that tend to be single purpose. ASO has a lot of legs on the stool. Conversion, paid search, organic search, all of this kind of stuff. And a lot of tools only do one thing well. So they want to emphasize how that one thing is most important for you. When you look at this, the most important thing for you to know is that if something's not working for you, maybe you see that search isn't a big driver and conversion is, or vice versa, for example. Don't assume that that part of ASO is not valid for you. The better conclusion is to assume the data that you're getting from your tool is bad. Most tools get their data from a lot of different sources, particularly keyword planners. Not all of them are very good. Let's talk a little bit about A/B testing. You know, A/B testing is a thing everyone does. Some do it in Google Play. Some use external testing tools to test on iOS. The challenge, though, with external testing tools that's important to know is that, honestly, 60% of tests that will test well with paid traffic when you're launching an App Store page that's virtual and you're driving some Facebook traffic into it are not going to convert once you launch an organic. And that's because paid and organic traffic behavior is not the same. And one of the big reasons it's not the same is because in the organic world, you compete versus your competitors, versus other apps. You don't compete against yourself. And so when you're running A/B testing, it's important to understand how to build creative that gets you a greater share of clicks when your competitors are next to you. Now, page testing is very important. If you're testing your page, you're making your paid traffic more efficient. I understand that. We want to do that all day long to increase yields and reduce cost. But if you're concerned about organic, you've got to be concerned about the user choice. Are users clicking me or my competitor when we're presented together? This is a great example that we do with PBS, where we were doing a lot of creative optimization, metadata optimization, and it was the creative that drove the app to the top of a lot of the keywords that we were targeting because we induced higher click-through rates, better conversion at a keyword level, and that improved the top of the funnel. Now, data really matters. There's only 20% overlap between web and mobile search data. That means if you're thinking about this from an SEO perspective, or you're looking at a keyword planner that even in part uses web data to backfill their information, 8 out of 10 keyword volume estimates are going to be wrong. You're not going to be looking at how Apple and Google merchandise you through the store. You're going to be looking at tactical ways of looking at keywords one at a time. And that's an utter failure, especially for apps that are very large. One keyword at a time doesn't make a difference. You need to know how to influence merchandising in a much greater way. 90% of the common ASO tools that are free or near free get their data from web search or paid search. And honestly, paid search isn't much better. Looking at Apple search ads or paid search data for ASO, it's kind of like trying to build a retirement portfolio, but taking all of your advice from a day trader. You want different length of trends. You want to understand how trends impact against seasonality and a lot of other things that are important for your app when you make your long-term ASO decisions. This is a great example of web versus mobile data. If you're running searches on Google versus running searches for the same keywords in the Apple App Store or Google Play, they're even going to give you different search suggestions. When you look at paid search data, there are also significant flaws. You know, look at an app like TurboTax. If you look at paid search data, you're going to see the blip when everyone's filing the tax returns in April, but you're not going to get advice what keywords to target the rest of the year because relative to all other keywords in the App Store, those volumes are lower during the other point during the year. Seasonality is hugely important, and relative size and scale of your market is really important. You look at Apple search ads data, and they're saying this keyword is as popular compared to keywords like Google and Facebook. Here's the relative score. But how does that relate to keywords that are relevant for your app? And those are very important questions to ask even for some of the very expensive tools if you're doing it self-service. Again, if it's not working for you, it's probably not you, it's the data that you're looking at. So the other thing, and I'm going to leave you with this that's really important, is that relevance is hugely important. Relevance and improving conversion makes everything better. It improves your rankings, it improves the yield on your paid spend, and 0% is the amount that difficulty scores on keywords and throughout the store matter. Difficulty scores have nothing to do with relevance, and the amount of apps ranking for a keyword has nothing to do with how hard it will be ranking for that keyword. It has everything to do with your conversion rate and whether you're relevant to those audiences. So why does relevance matter? I think this is a great example. We did some work with Westfield a while ago. And so if we were searching for the word mall in the App Store, you would get a lot of children's games for shopping. Now, why is that? Because that is what people want to download when they search in mobile for that keyword. That is the search intention. No matter what you are not going to change that search intention. No matter how much you spend, no matter your volume or velocity, which by the way doesn't affect your keyword rankings, that's a chart ranking thing. And so it's very important to say, look, let's put our mindset in the mindset of mobile and mobile users, not web users. Let's kind of put that data that we know from web aside. And let's understand how to succeed from a mobile context in the App Store. Do we use the right data? What users are we relevant for? What do users intend to find when they search? Because this kind of viral loop gets everything going better. Ultimately, even if you're focused on paid spend, knowing what users search for and what they intend to find in the App Store is going to increase the performance of all your paid marketing too. Ultimately, everyone needs a call to action wherever they are. So anyway, thank you very much. That was my presentation, and you can find us at our booth or around.